This is Talk Business and Politics with Roby Brock.
Welcome to today's Talk Business and Politics Daily. I'm Roby Brock. It is Monday. We are with John Brummett of the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette. Good to see you.
Always a pleasure.
It's a lovely weekend this past weekend. I hope you got out and enjoyed it some.
I did. I did. Lost a tennis match.
Yeah. That's not how you're supposed to. You're supposed to win.
It's the experience and the
How bad did you get beat? How bad was it?
7-6, 6-3.
Okay, well that's competitive. You didn't get smoked.
Well, yeah.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Let's begin. You've got some breaking news that we're going to talk about here. Let's talk a little bit about the Arkansas Bar Association is bringing forth a proposed constitutional amendment that'll be pretty comprehensive. Hit some highlights.
I would say so. Next month, the Bar Convention will meet in Hot Springs. The House of Delegates will assemble at that time, and the rules require that 30 days before the House of Delegates meets to consider anything, a proposal has to have been given notice of 30 days. So mailings went out today from Denise Hoggard, the president of the Bar, to members of the House of Delegates outlining this idea for major sort of omnibus constitutional reform as an answer to the tort reform proposal. It's a compilation of changes in the state constitution that would include forbidding damage caps and leaving rulemaking on judicial branch with the Supreme Court, but it would also do other things like require disclosure of dark money in state races and cap dark money in judicial races. A governor's veto, which can now be overridden by a simple majority, which renders it pointless, could only be overridden by 2/3. The GIF money, local project money, there would be an amendment to the Constitution that would expressly forbid directing an appropriation locally or through an agency, which would put that out of business. It would restore administrative rulemaking with state agencies and let the legislature review rather than approve, which took place a few years ago, and one other that I can't remember.
But no, I think you hit them all right there.
There are 5 proposals, what it's doing is it is a single proposed amendment, which would have one single comprehensive ballot title, but it would amend the Constitution in 5 different places to do those things. So it would take on the business community and the nursing home and the medical community's tort reform proposal head on, but then it would have a lot of other things.
Do some other good government things that you've seen a lot of progressive groups and causes out there promoting over the last couple of years. So how confusing is all of that going to be for a voter to read that ballot title and understand what's going to be on? That would be the obvious legal challenge, would it not?
Well, it's going to be confusing on its face in that we have a tort reform proposal and we have another proposal that bans that kind of tort reform, but also does many other things. I've never seen an amendment in this form, and it remains to be seen. I mean, having never encountered anything quite like this that makes 4 or 5 separate amendments or changes in the Constitution, I don't know how people will respond to it, but it depends on, the debate will be interesting. If the Bar Association chooses next month to propose this comprehensive 5-plank amendment, will the debate, and then they get it on the ballot in 2018, will our dialogue and debate in the fall of 2018 be simply about tort reform? They want it, the lawyers are against it in that fight, or will the Bar Association be able to reframe the debate to have us talking about good government, like banning the local projects and disclosing contributors otherwise unknown to us in our races? So I've never seen a proposal quite like this. I've never seen a dynamic quite like this, but it's innovative and it's big. I mean, this is a battle royal if it happens. If you've got the nursing home and the medical industries on one side and the law and the legal industry on the other, and if you're proposing to make 5 rather significant changes. I mean, it sounds simple. Rather than override a governor's veto by a simple majority, it takes 2/3. That changes the whole dynamic of a governor's power and governor and legislature relations. So we'll just have to see if they have the nerve to put it on the ballot and get it there, and it'll be a fascinating
But there's
study.
some hoops that have to jump through. Number one, the Bar Association's delegates have to approve that they want to push forward on this, number one. And number two, then you got to go collect signatures, which is no small undertaking, and then not necessarily a guarantee
of money and manpower
of success. And then you got to survive the legal challenges to possibly get it turned off.
The House of Delegates would have to say, yeah, we want the Bar Association to do this. Then you would have to get Attorney General Rutledge to approve a ballot title that she would consider, and they want to keep it short. and understandable, but which would cover all, which is a trick, cover all 5 proposals. Then that done, you begin the real work of signatures, and then you begin a campaign. So we're far from having the battle royal, but it's interesting that the Bar Association has the idea percolating, and it's going to be on the agenda next month in Hot Springs at their convention.
All right, let's take a quick commercial break and come back and talk some national politics right after this. All right, I'm with John Brummett. We're back with more right after this.
Arkansas Electric Cooperative Corporation provides electric energy across 2/3 of Arkansas. This is an exciting time in our energy history, with incredible progress being made in renewable energy and storage technologies. As our energy portfolio continues to diversify, we'll maintain an all-the-above strategy to provide reliable and affordable electricity. Ever since the first light bulbs were placed in our members' homes, the electric cooperatives have been the solutions provider for our members, and we want to continue that well into the future.
Each day, the promise of our nation begins again. Arkansas and America, moving forward. I help make that promise a reality. It's not for everyone, but people everywhere depend on us. Trucking delivers, or everything stops. And that's what drives me.
Welcome back to Talk Business and Politics Daily. I'm Roby Brock here with John Brummett of the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette. We had a lot happening last week on the national stage. Sally Yates, the acting Attorney General, testified before a congressional committee. That in and of itself would have been enough to dominate a week's worth of news, but not in the Trump era, because by midweek you had the James Comey firing. We saw Sean Spicer hiding in the bushes, Sarah Huckabee Sanders standing behind the lectern there.
Getting portrayed on Saturday Night Live.
Trump talking about canceling press briefings by the end of the week. This has been one of the more bizarre weeks in the Trump campaign. Would you not agree?
Well, that's a high bar, a bizarre week in the Trump era. But yeah, this sudden firing of Comey, and apparently an afternoon's fit of pique by the president, because he was tired of seeing Sally Yates on TV and tired of looking bad in his favorite pastime, which is watching all the cable channels. And so he gets this letter and he writes it, and he claims it's based on an Attorney General's recommendation, an assertion he took back or contradicted the next day, has his bodyguard send it over to the FBI while Comey is not there. He's in Los Angeles at a meeting in a conference room with some FBI people, and a runner on the TV screen behind him announces that the president has fired him.
He thought it was a joke. He thought it was a prank they were playing on him.
And it was there was a great moment in Saturday Night Live when the actor portraying Lester Holt during the interview with Trump is sitting there and asks Trump a question, and Trump says, "Yeah, I was going to fire him anyway because of this Russian deal." And Lester speaks into his IFB as I think to somebody, the director says, "So have I got him? Have I got him?" And he hears back, "Not anymore. Nothing matters anymore." And I think that with Trump, there's things that would weeks ago, months ago, have destroyed any politician in sight. Now we don't know if it does. It's just, the rules are so different with his behavior and his eccentricity that we can't. Is this a new level of misbehavior and outrage that moves the debate, or hard to say, because we just don't know, and you can't really get to the bottom of it. I mean, was he obstructing justice by firing the guy in charge of the? Not if the new guy continues the investigation. And is firing Comey a bad thing? Democrats say, yeah, because of the timing, but by the way, we wanted him fired last year because this. So it's unlike anything I've seen.
You have written a little bit about the partisanship in D.C. You've written about it here at the state and local level too, but let's focus on the D.C. part of it for the time being, because one of the reasons Trump is not pressed as hard on some of this stuff is because Republicans pretty solidly in Congress have stayed unified behind him. There are not deep oversight investigations going on. There's not, they're resisting an independent probe of some of this stuff right here. This is what you wrote on Sunday. Nearly everything from the school millage issue in Little Rock to the Trump-Russia madness in Washington comes down to either ego and turf or partisan distrust. Tell me about the partisan distrust.
Well, partisan distrust is beyond standard partisan disagreement in the context in which I use it. I mean, I'm not saying that Republicans and Democrats have ever loved each other and worked together in wonderful harmony, but a healthy partisan environment would encourage and facilitate their honest disagreements, but allow for enough trust of the other side that they could work things out. What's been happening in the last 25 years or longer is just this growing level of distrust that limits the ability to get anything done. And the best example I have from last week is that Sally Yates has some interesting information for the White House counsel. Your national security advisor, we heard him on the phone. We know what he said to the Russian ambassador. Mike Pence, your vice president, says he's talked to him, Mike Flynn, and Mike Flynn denies, has your vice president denying what he did in fact talk about. And the Russians like to use that kind of thing, and they can blackmail people. We wanted you to know this. So how does the White House counsel respond? He said, why do you care whether one guy in the White House lies to another guy in the White House? In other words, oh my God, we've got a potential problem here. We need to lock this place down and bring in some polygraph machines and figure out what's going on, because this is a matter of national security. But aren't you an Obama appointee? Well, you don't. Well, I don't care what you say. I don't trust what you say. That gets in the way of basic functioning of our government. And I thought the same thing happened in the school issue. It was not about the issue, it was about who's proposing it. And whether the state's in control of the local schools or not, or whether you like the charter school expansion or not, it all influenced the whole vote and had people voting differently than they would normally. So I don't mean to be naive about partisanship. I mean to say this partisan disagreement and the partisan role has become destructively distrustful, because at some point we need to figure out what the Russians did, and what we can do about it.
Right.
So.
All right, so you've got a column coming up on this Bar Association proposal
tomorrow
that we talked about, and then you got anything else in the works?
The online-only column for Wednesday, which I have already written, is the New York Times on Sunday had a front page piece about Donald Trump, and it said that he is obsessing on the legitimacy of his election and sensitive that people think it might not be legitimate because of the popular vote. It says he is just outraged at this ridiculous notion that the Congress that somebody would appoint a special prosecutor to investigate him, and it occurred to me as I was reading that. And it also said that the Washington culture and the establishment was against him from the beginning, and had never before had a president come into office doing that.
It did vote 96% for Clinton.
Right. But as I read that, it occurred to me that I'd actually heard all that before. Not read it, but heard it before. I was in Washington doing a book about Bill Clinton's first year, had 2 chances to interview him, and he said those same things. I went back and read the notes and the transcript. In fact, some of the passages from the book. Clinton said, I didn't pick up on the cultural cues here. I come in here and it's like the election never happened. Nobody accepted, I got no honeymoon. There used to be a honeymoon. And he said, Whitewater? Whitewater's nothing. We lost money in the land deal. Why would we have an investigation of that? And then he also said, the Wall Street Journal, I've got this in the direct, the Wall Street Journal says in an editorial that because I only got 43% of the vote, they just don't accept that I have legitimate authority to be president. All of this has happened before. All of this has been said before. The point being, nothing is new in Trump's predicament except for the level of trouble caused by his own behavior. The other point is, I think from about Clinton's time until now a quarter century, has been a time in which this partisanship and this politics of personal destruction that we talk about has really taken over our politics. And that's the point of that column.
I agree with you on that.
All right.
All right, he's John Brummett with the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette, and catch him in the newspaper almost every day, every other day-ish sort of thing. You can catch him online.
Sunday, Tuesday, and Thursday, online on Wednesday. Twitter every hour.
ArkansasOnline.com.
Right.
Thanks for being here.
You bet.
Thank you for tuning in. That's all for today's program. We'll see you next time.